Hello everyone, and welcome to another video from The Reading Alchemist. So this video is going to be my March wrap-up where I'll tell you about all the reading stats for this month, and I'll give you guys the ratings of each book that I read during the month of March. So, let's get on with the video. So, during the month of March, I actually read the highest book count for the year. This month, I actually read a total of 7 books, which is a lot. I don't think it's the most I've read in a month, but it's the most I've read in a month so far. And I say I have read 7 books this month, but in reality, as of today, it is technically still 6. I am actually currently reading It Devours by Joseph Fink and Jeffrey Cranor, which is a book set in the Welcome to Night Vale universe that is based on the Night Vale podcast, which is written by both of these two authors here. I have already read this book. This is a reread for me. You guys actually won't get a video for this book, but that's because this book actually wasn't on my TBR, and I'm only going to do videos for books that are on my TBR so far, just to kind of keep content consistent, and while I get into the habit of reading and remembering to turn the camera on and stuff like that. As you can see, I am pretty far into the book. I have about 100. I'm currently on page 245 out of 347. So I have 102 pages left, which I'm planning on finishing today. Easily done. Easily only done until the afternoon for me. So I can easily finish this book by the end of today. But, so, during the month of March, I read 4 ebooks on my Amazon Fire tablet here on Scribd. Scribd is the ebook/audiobook service that I use. Yes, it is a monthly fee, but out of all the other audiobook and services out there, I don't have to actually pay for the books, which could be like $7 to $10. Instead, I pay a monthly fee, and I essentially get all the ebooks and all the audiobooks that they have. So it's a pretty great deal. The Deep by River Solomon, Legendary by Stephanie Garber, which is the second book in the Caraval trilogy. I read Truly Devious by Maureen Johnson, which is the first book in the Truly Devious series, and I read Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo, which is the first book in the Grishaverse universe. I read a total of 2,656 pages, which is just 20-some pages higher than the page count for February. I read 6 fantasy books this month, and one mystery / thriller. 3 of the books that I read this month would be classified as adult, and those are The Deep by Rivers Solomon, The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab, and It Devours by Joseph Fink and Jeffrey Cranor. The rest of the books that I read this month are, of course, YA. That includes the other physical book that I read this month, which is Carry On by Rainbow Rowell. As far as when these books were published, the book with the lowest publication year, it was published in 2012, which was Shadow and Bone. And the book, of course, with the newest publication date was The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, which was published in 2020. Of the books that I read this year, I own 3 of them. Carry On by Rainbow Rowell, The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, and It Devours. 2 of these books that I read this month were actually a reread for me. Carry On is actually a reread for me. I actually have read Carry On. This was my 3rd time reading this book. The first time I read this book was in 2019, and It Devours is also a reread for me, also a 3rd time reread for me. The first time I read this book was in 2017, I believe. Yeah, 2017 was the first time I read this book. I read 3 standalones this month. The Deep by Rivers Solomon is a standalone. Currently, and I'm pretty certain that will stay a standalone. Currently, The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue is a standalone, but I could still see her writing more. And It Devours is technically a standalone. Even there are other 2 books that have been written that have been set in the same world, but technically, yes, it is a standalone. This book, you actually don't have to be familiar with the podcast or the other episodes in the podcast in order to read this book. You can't just jump right in and read the book. But I have been keeping up with the podcast, so I do know what this book is about. Now, let's jump in to the part you guys are probably most interested to hear, and that is ratings. So, this month, I gave out a total of 4 5 stars. The first book that I gave a 5-star to is Carry On by Rainbow Rowell. And as of looking at my sheet, this book got a 9.57 rating out of 10, which makes it the highest 5-star read for this month. I knew that this book was going to get a 5-star for me since it has everything that I love. Yes, you guys didn't get a reading vlog for this book. However, the final book for this series comes out in July, on July 6th, 10 days before my birthday, which is July 16th. So, yes, I'm going to pre-order Any Way the Wind Blows. Any Way the Wind Blows, and that book is automatically being put on July's TBR, and you guys will get a reading vlog for that book. I am so far very hyped for that book. I am planning on most likely rereading Wayward Son in June in anticipation for the final book, which comes out in July. But since you guys didn't get a reading vlog for this book, I might as well tell you the ratings for this book. So I gave Carry On a 10 for characters. Simon and Baz are my two favorite characters in this book. I gave it a 10 for atmosphere, magical school setting, set in London. Absolutely pleased. The writing I loved. It has very short chapters, which I also really love in books, because it allows me to just fly through. I gave this book a 10 for plot, even though it doesn't really pick up until a partial moment in this book, until like a certain point in this book, then it picks up. I did give it a 10 based on that the majority of the plot takes place within like the second half of the book, and it's great. Plus there's a chapter in this book. If you've read this book, you know the chapter I'm talking about. Yeah. I gave this book a 9 for intrigue, a 9 for logic, and a 9 for enjoyment. I was going to give it a 10 for enjoyment, but I should mention how long it took me to read this book. It took me a week. For a reread, that's a little bit much. And I think the reason why it took me a week was because I had work, and I worked a ton, and I couldn't really read. So that's why. So that, of course, brought the intrigue down, and it brought the logic down, and the enjoyment down. But yeah, it's still got a 5 stars. The highest 5 stars from the month, which makes it March's favorite book of the month. 2 books did tie, however, for second place. Each book I gave you guys a reading vlog for. Which the first book that I read was Truly Devious by Maureen Johnson. I gave it a 9.2. It got a 9.29 out of 10, which makes it a 5-star read. And it tied with The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, which also got a 9.29, which is also a 5-star. For me, if a book gets 4 stars or higher, I will most definitely be continuing with the series, and I will, of course, be reading more books by that author. I did talk about Carry On by Rowell, so yes, that will be taken care of. Maureen Johnson with Truly Devious, I will definitely be continuing with the series, and of course her other works, and that includes more books written by V.E. Schwab. So now that's 5 stars taken care of. 4 stars. One book this month did get a 4-star for me, and that is Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo. It got an 8.14 out of 10. That's still pretty high as in terms of 4-star ratings go. That's close to 9. So it almost got a 5 stars. So I will definitely, number 1, be continuing with the Grishtaverse series. And I will also be continuing with books by Leigh Bardugo. Now, let's talk about It Devours. As of course, I'm not done with the book yet, so I actually don't know where this book stands in terms of rating. However, just for this video, I'm going to state that I gave it a 4-star. I know it's definitely not a 3-star. As of where 4-star, most likely it's probably going to be a high 4 stars. And if it gets a 5-star, it will be on the lower end. So let's just say for this video that I gave It Devours 4 stars. And finally, the book that got the lowest rating for me this month was The Deep by River Solomon. I did say in my March TBR video that I was excited to read this book because it was a novella. It was fairly short. But right at the beginning, so I'll just state for you, I essentially gave it 7s and 6s. I thought that the characters, the atmosphere, the writing was decent. But the kind of reason why it got a 3 stars was because of the fact that I found it very confusing. I don't think it didn't really have a plot. And I say that it didn't really have a decent action-packed plot for me, which is why it got essentially 6s and a couple of 7s. It didn't really have a plot. My enjoyment level on it was kind of meh. I didn't really think it had really good logic. I also thought the logic was kind of meh. The plot was kind of meh. So it got a 3 stars. Now, so it got a 6.43 out of 10, which puts it at a 3-star. So, yeah, so that's all the star ratings that I gave during the month of March. I should tell you before I wrap this video up that I did read 2 books this month that have LGBTQ plus representation. The book, and the first one I read was The Deep. It does have LGBTQ plus representation in it. One of the characters, the main character of The Deep, it's hard to classify the gender, but the other character in the book is definitely female human. I guess you could count it mermaid water creature, so it's that ship. So there is LGBTQ plus representation in that book, and of course, if you've read Carry On by Rainbow Rowell, you definitely know that there is LGBTQ plus representation in this book. I really don't have to say it. This book is pretty popular. Most people who have heard of it and read it know that there is definitely LGBTQ plus representation in this book. For those of you who don't know, this is somewhat spoilerly, but if you read the back of this book, it kind of says what it is. And once you read it, the first couple of pages, I guess it's kind of smelly. But the 2 characters on the front, Simon and Bazia, they get together. So, yeah, this is going to be the end of my March wrap up for the month. I hope you guys enjoy enjoy. For further context research, this is what the stacked looked like for the month, since I did have some physical reads. Yeah. Thanks so much for watching. Please give this video a like and subscribe for more bookish content from me, and I will see you guys in my next video.